You guys are just having a conversation.
Okay.
I'm just happen to be back here looking at it. I'm ready to go.
Scott Nye was a race fan who volunteered once too often. Then he turned out to be in charge of much of the PR circuit at Indianapolis Speedrome, and he does that at the time being. Now, once upon a time, you were working on a racetrack, working on a race car, and then you looked at some of the statistics and said, well, that's wrong, I can do better. Then they hired you. Is that really what happened?
Yeah, I've been a big fan of statistics all my life. I used to keep them from the first time I went to the Speedrome in 1981, and I kept all that stuff for myself. And then as I ventured into the pit area and started helping Dwayne Lee on his car for a while, and then Curtis McMurtry for a little bit before the track noticed that I was into all these statistics and things and hired me in 2004.
And since I was the incompetent statistician you replaced, I appreciate the help.
Anytime, Kevin.
But what is it about stock car racing that attracted you and all of your buddies?
Figure eight racing, just from the first time I saw it in 1981, it became a fever, a drug for me that I still haven't got rid of to this day. Figure eight racing is the best racing there is. The drivers are so talented, and everybody thought, it was just jalopies going around, but these figure eight guys do some awesome and incredible things behind the wheel, and these guys are my racing heroes much more than the IndyCar, the NASCAR guys that other people looked up to.
You got a chance to see Dwayne Lee, Hall of Famer, up close and what he did. Does that help your attitude?
Absolutely. Dwayne was one of the best out there, and very professional the way he acted on the track, and I just love seeing all these guys, especially here at this gathering today. There's so many great people. I managed to get a good photo of Wayne Arnold and Kenny St. John together, and my hands were shaking when I was taking the picture, just to be in the presence of two guys like that, let alone all the other great drivers that have been here this afternoon.
Wayne Arnold and Kenny St. John were rivals from the late 90s to about the mid-1980s, and that was one of the rivalries that really defined racing. If you take a look at racing in any type, you always need to have more than one good driver, as in this case in the Indianapolis Speedrome in the world of figure eight racing. Sometimes you had 6 or 7 potential race winners that would start at one of the 50 lap or 35 mile lap races.
Yeah, when I was a kid in the early 80s, the St. John name and the Arnold name, those guys won a majority of the figure eight races. So even if you were there as a fan of somebody else, like I was there to root on when I was a kid, Steve Ellis and Jim Fox, but you still had to choose to be a St. John or an Arnold fan besides your normal favorites, because those guys were so prominent in winning races. And that's what was so neat about the Speedrome and the figure eight racing, was how those guys had to start at the back of the field and get to the front every night, which was much more impressive than other short track racing.
During the time that you've been associated with the racetrack, it's been fascinating to watch the new breeds of drivers come up. Competing with those drivers, you had the Tunney's, and then you had a second generation of Tunney families coming through. Then you have another driver that we had a chance to interview this afternoon, who was one of the people that's really emerged in the last few years as being an all-purpose person in the world of figure eight racing. That's Doug Gregg.
Yeah, it's neat to see those second, third, and even fourth generations now into the Speedrome and being victorious. You talk about Doug Gregg, he's won in just about every kind of car out there. Probably the most versatile champion the track's ever had. And he's even passing that along right now, because his young daughter, Kimmy, she's 12 years old and she's already won a couple of track championships. So that's even another generation of family out there at the Speedrome. It's just amazing.
Back when you got started in the Indianapolis Speedrome, women were not really understood as race drivers. Now they're starting to come around. Do you think, you've been around this, do you think that maybe in the next generation we're going to see an entirely new group of people even outrun the Tunneys, a female Tunney maybe one of these days?
Yeah, I definitely think it's possible. There's a good generation of younger lady drivers that are especially coming up in the junior fast karts. We have 6 or 8 of those young ladies all the time, running up front. So I would love to see them being very successful in the stock car and figure eight times. That would be awesome, and I think it'll happen here in the
Some
next
people have
15
called the Danica effect, but I think it goes deeper than that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Short track people, you know, where Danica has not really come from the short track roots, you know, but there's been a lot of successful ladies that have, and over the years at the Speedrome, you know, you've been around, you know, Bev Griffiths winning the first USAC midget feature at the Speedrome, and girls like Stephanie Mockler and Stephanie Valentine, and those being very successful, you know, in the 80s and the early 90s. And then into the figure eight world, you know, Kim Gibson here today, she did real well against the guys, finishing up in the top several figure eight features. So I don't think that's very far out from us having a very top level female figure eight driver.
You know, I'll take your. I see your eyes are turning red, so I'm going to call things off.
Yeah, they're struggling.
We'll give you a dim world now and make sure you get.
Peace out.
I will show you.